I don't think Bakery Bling would have been as successful if it wasn't innovative, right? If I just came out with the same thing everybody else was doing, I'm not sure we would have had a place, for us. I think as we've grown, for us now, it's getting more efficient in what we're doing, bringing in the right team. You can talk about all these high level decisions, all this stuff, but if you don't have the right team, none of that matters. It goes back to the team. People that are just willing to dive in and do what it takes to get the job done. And I feel like I have a lot of those people on my team.
Hello, Money Movers. Welcome to another episode of Her Money Moves. Today, we are recording live in Colorado Springs at the WPO Entrepreneurial Excellence Forum. And I am so excited to have this amazing next guest, Lauren Brooks, on the show. Lauren is the founder and CEO of Bakery Bling, home to all things glittery, fabulous, and fun. And we love that. Providing everything needed to create sweet, safe, everlasting memories with family and friends. Thank you so much for being here, Lauren.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so as a busy mom myself, how did you have this idea for Bakery Bling?
So it's funny. I actually wanted to start a liquor company, and I worked really hard at that for a while. So Little Wasted was the company name, and we really wanted to do alcohol. And I think just kind of waiting for the approvals, all that kind of stuff, I started making glittery sugar, which was going to go on the rims of the cocktails. And we started selling that all over the place. A lot of different people that started growing. And then I had people from the baking industry coming to me saying, hey, could you make a product like this for bakery? And I was like, sure, let's try it. And so after we started selling it to, Kroger and places like that, it was like, who else could we sell the glittery sugars to? And so I started looking at kit companies, gingerbread house companies, and saying, hey guys, how cool would it be to have like a glittery gingerbread house? And most of them didn't pay attention to what I was trying to do. So I said, let's go ahead and try and do this ourselves. So I sent an email I sent a kit, kind of how I would have mocked up our first cookie kit. I sent it to a buyer at Kroger, and he called me and he was like, hey, can I get 105,000 of these for fall? Wow. So, honestly, I believe that was 6 years ago, about now. And at that point we were in 1,200 square feet and we had this very small kitchen. But still, we went through all the processes, permits to try and get this small kitchen. And so from there, we moved into about 7,500 square feet. And we thought once we got there, we're like, okay, we're never going to outgrow this. This is great. And today we're in almost 150,000.
150,000 square foot?
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. And how much have you grown? What is your e-commerce business, correct?
The majority of our sales are to the guys like Walmart, Sam's, Safeway, Albertsons, Kroger's, Publix, a lot of in-store groceries across the country. We are really throughout the nation. We go into Canada, we go into Mexico. So we sell into a lot of different places and a lot of different channels.
How did you envision transforming this baking industry, with your products, and what drove you to be an entrepreneur?
I think I've always been an entrepreneur. I love the idea of creating. I'm definitely a visionary. I love that part of the business. I kind of fell into bakery. I'm not sure, everybody's like, oh, was this like, your custom recipe or your recipes you did in your house? And no, that wasn't it. I just saw that bakery was, gingerbread houses hadn't changed since we were kids, really. It was icing, candy, same house. It's just kind of boring. It's stale. It needed a refresh, Yes. And so when we started adding figurines, we have a Moose Lodge house that has the cutest little black bears. It has a black bear coming out of the chimney. When we started adding unicorns and all those type of things to kits. And so, from all of our buyers that we deal with, it was like, oh, we want innovation. We want something new. We want something new. And so that was really the excitement behind all of that, was giving them products that were new and not the same old.
Right.
Yeah.
Your mission as far as, bringing families together and how, with these baking kits, the entire family can enjoy this experience together.
so much. And you look like Christmas now, so many people have holiday parties, right? And it's like, okay, who makes the best gingerbread houses? And, it's, I think it's just fun. It goes back to getting off screens, getting off devices, and being able to do things as a family that are interactive.
Yes. So this really resonates with me and my family. We have a family tradition. Ever since my mom was 8 years old, she learned how to bake these lemon sugar Christmas cookies. And everything, Christmas trees, reindeer, stars, snowmen, Santa, candy canes, you name it. And every single Christmas, our entire family gets together. It's a very special time and a special tradition for us to bake these cookies.
Absolutely.
And, sometimes we do a little... Traditionally, we have, making them the same way, but sometimes like my daughter Sophia and my nieces will be there, make their couture ones
right.
with the glitter
right.
and with, different colors and, get creative with it.
Absolutely. And I think women are so busy now, right? Most of us have to work. Most households now are dual incomes. Moms aren't able as much to stay at home. So
or one income, like myself, I'm a single mom.
Right. And I was for a long time too. So I think looking at all those things, we're just taking the labor out of that, because it's like, you may not have time to go to the store, get all this stuff, then make the cookies. And then it's like, it kind of takes away from the excitement of the activity, right? Because there's so much labor that goes into that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh yeah. It takes days.
Right?
Yes.
So we're trying to take all of that out and bring fun interactive kits. I love, we have a gingerbread man for Christmas, and it comes with bows, so you can put the bow in her hair, or you can use it as a bow tie, or just different things to make your cookies unique to you, so you can have fun with it.
Love that.
Yeah.
So navigating the path of entrepreneurship, it involves so many significant challenges,
so many,
and overcoming them, especially when, like you're a mom of 3, I'm a mom of 2. Can you share some of these hurdles that you've encountered, on your journey?
Yeah, sure. I think when I look back at our journey, it's been a tough journey. And a lot of people don't know that. They probably look at Bakery Bling and seeing how fast we've grown, and it looks so pink and pretty and glittery. It's kind of hard to think of, oh, wow, that's so easy, right? And it's like the struggles are real. I think the struggles in any business are real. I think manufacturing is very challenging. One thing I'll say about myself is I'm not really afraid of risk. I really should be more afraid of it. I think as I've gotten a little bit older and as this has grown a lot more, I'm a little more scared of it, because when we look back, we went from, in the last 6 years, we've gone from 1,200 square feet to 7,500 square feet to the building in Oklahoma City is about 100,000 square feet. Okay. So we bought the building in Oklahoma City a month before COVID happened. Okay. Now, when I did that, it was basically, I had about 8 months, 10 months to be able to get operational for the next coming year. Okay. Because we're very heavily seasonal. Third and fourth quarter, bakery sales in any bakery, they're going to go up during that time of year. We as the Americans just consume more bakery goods during that time.
Oh, yes.
But when you look at that, you're like, okay, so we had to get closed. We were in San Clemente, California. We had to close that operation. Then we had to go open up the next facility, right? And basically all new equipment. So we have 120-foot oven lines. We have, a mixer that makes 250,000 pounds of dough each mix. We've had struggles from icing machines to we make our own sugar, we make our own glitter, we cut the glitter. We do all those things in-house, right? And so when you look at all of this, you're like, okay, that's a lot to be able to get set up. And so it was very challenging through COVID, right? And a lot of this experience, I wouldn't say we had a lot of it, right? You're trying to go to the next steps, but there's not necessarily a roadmap for how to take those, right? Mm-hmm. And so then you need really good people, and that's getting harder and harder to come by, So I would say for us, it's been really challenging to get set up, especially through COVID, to get everything going. I'll say one thing for us. It took us longer to get set up that year, and we ended up having to sell our house in California to get the business right that year because we brought in more packaging. We brought in everything as we were going to ship everything we were supposed to, and we didn't get set up in time. So we probably didn't end up shipping a third of what we were supposed to that year, but still, you have to pay for everything.
Yes.
You know? So it's like those challenges. I mean, you can have too much inventory. Too much inventory can kill you. Not enough inventory can kill you. You know, and as the companies keep growing, you can't do everything on your own. I think one of the things that I've had to learn is I'm not a very process-driven person. I'm more of a visionary. I'm more of the innovation behind the brand. So you have to bring in those people that drive process, right? And for me, it's like process, right? You know, but yes, because you can't grow to those next levels without it. So those are a lot of the challenges that we've had. We are still self-funded. Okay. At this point, we still don't have investors. We still haven't sold any of the company. We've still been able to do this. And I think getting to where we've gotten to and being able to do that is very challenging. You know, because how do you grow a business and keep growing it without money, right? I think like one thing I never learned in school was you necessarily can't grow by 100%, 100%, 100%. They say good growth is about 20% a year to be able to do it self-funded. But then when you keep growing faster than that, you have to look at bringing funding in.
Yeah. So, I mean, what a difficult decision that must have been to sell your house and
So
still
hard.
have this belief and confidence in yourself that, you know, it's we're going to see the return on this investment.
It's really
and
hard.
I mean,
you almost get too deep in it, right? Because everything you now have is in this company, you know? So it's like, as you keep growing it, you know, you're like this year, we just bought a brand new icing machine. It's close to $1 million, right? And it's like, but that's what's needed to take some of the labor out of that part of the business and to be able to make as much icing as you need to make into pastry bags and all those types of things, right? So you're investing back into the business. And I think for depending on what however you decide to grow, right? Whether it's with investors, whether it's not with investors, for me, I'm not sure that I could sell. The problem is when you need money, you're so small that they're going to take so much of your company.
yes. Too much. To the point where then you're not in charge of your company. And I'm not going to work for, I've built this. Why am I going to work for somebody else? Have them call the shots. I don't think that would work for me, you know? So I think for me, I made the choice that I've bootstrapped this and my husband and I have poured everything we have into this. If he had to wrap pallets, if we had to bake, if we had to sweep the floors, if we had to help pack boxes, I'll never forget, this is a true story. We had Bed Bath & Beyond as a customer, okay? Which was a major hit for us because we never got paid by them. That was almost $1 million. I was back there packing Bed Bath & Beyond because we were so busy that year that I was doing it. And when you look back at, we lost close to $1 million. Never got paid on it. They did. They got paid. We didn't. We took that hit as a company. That was a hard hit. That was a major hit. And it was like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And it was like, you really had to kind of step back and say, okay, this is how we're going to navigate through this. This is not going to be perfect. Last year was really hard for us as a company because we took some of these hits. And thank God we've had really, really good partners because we weren't able to pay everybody in 30 days. We had to get through this. But today we're stronger because of that. And it's like, not every person that's going to want you to do business for them, you can't always say yes. Like there's a company right now that I'm looking at and I'm like, why would we do this? It's a private label and they want us to have a 90% sell through. They want to pay $5,000 for every setup. They want you to do all these things. It's not even under our brand. And then if it doesn't sell, then we're going to get hit for it. To me, that's not good business and that's not a good partner. So some of those things you have to say no to, right? Yes.
Yeah. And you don't understand like all those things. You think, oh my gosh, they want us to do this. Could be an extra whatever it is a year. But if you're going to get hit, you know, and I find more with the economy now, manufacturers are getting hit more And manufacturers are already the ones that are dealing with the labor issues, dealing with so many other things. They can't afford to be hit right now. And so it's a tough time. It's hard to find good people. It's hard to find good labor. It's hard to find the path forward, So I think that you just have to be sometimes reflective in looking at these decisions and saying, okay, what happens if I do this? What happens if I don't do this? Right? Because I shipped Bed Bath & Beyond. My husband was like, you shouldn't do this. And I'm like, no, it's Christmas time. They'll make it through. I think when their CFO jumped off the building in New York, I was like, maybe that's a bad sign. Right? And listen, I don't know the circumstances behind that or anything to do with it, but I just knew that maybe we shouldn't be shipping. And to be honest, I have a few other friends in industry that shipped them as well and got hit really hard as well. And some of these companies are a lot smaller than us and they got hit for 300,000. I mean, that's a big hit on a manufacturer.
Oh, yes.
It's huge.
Yes.
Those types of decisions can take companies out. You have to be careful who you partner with. Because if they're going to fee you to death, if they're going to charge you for everything and you don't have that priced in, the business isn't worth it.
Yeah, be selective.
Be selective, yes.
Do your due diligence on who you partner with.
Right? The funding's really challenging because as a company, we've grown really heavily in third and fourth quarter. So we're building inventory, building, product when it's probably our slowest time, right? But as a manufacturer, we pay for all of that up front. So we may be working on projects 3 to 6 months before we even get paid, right? So you need money when you don't necessarily have money coming in the door. And most banks don't understand that. Yes. They only want the perfect scenario. Well, that's not how most of us have grown these businesses. So they need to open their eyes to how it works. Because
get real.
You can't grow businesses necessarily on cash flow. That's not the way it works.
So Bakery Bling, with its multi-product line,
right,
has made impressive strides as one of the fastest growing women-led companies. And congratulations.
Thank you.
That is amazing. You're one of the 50 fastest growing companies
Third
here.
year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is a huge honor and recognition. And, hopefully our money moving audience can get inspired and really can learn a lot from you. I'm learning a lot from you on, being able to set that goal and reach that one day.
It's hard. I think, especially when you're looking at a company, you're like, okay, can I make this a company? Is this a good product? Is this, where we found an opening, a very niche segment was gingerbread houses because they hadn't been touched in 30 years, right? So that was our way in. Cookie kits the same way. And now we're launching designer decorated cookies and they'll be different as well, something that's not in the market. So I always look for a spin to something that elevates what's already out there, right? Like if my child came to me and said, hey, I want to make chocolate chip cookies, I'd be like, okay. I don't know.
Because what's your differentiator? Right?
Ours, for us, has always been the glittery sugar and the royal icing pieces that we put on the cookies and the gingerbread houses. And then our packaging. Our packaging is very giftable. It's fun. It's just different, right? So those have always been, for us, our areas of differentiation. But when I look at the industry as a whole, bakery, right? I think it's sad because they've taken bakery down to a sense, right? It's cents for cookies, bagels, donuts. People are operating off cents. And I was thinking about the other day, you go to a bar, you get a martini. Sometimes you pay $20 for that martini, right? But then you want a gingerbread house or a dozen cookies for $3.99. The labor of love that goes in those cookies, that goes into a cake artist when she makes a cake and decorates it. People sometimes don't want to pay for that craftsmanship, but it truly is. You should pay a little bit more for bakery than we're paying for it now. Especially like a lot of our products, we can make natural, we can make products that have no artificial colors, so many of the things
gluten-free.
We could do that. I mean, but again, almond flour, right? It's going to be more expensive. We're dairy free and we're nut free. So that's great because classrooms, things like that, we try and be school friendly in the sense so that, because most classrooms, you're not allowed to take something you make at home now, right? So you go to the store, you pick things up. I think for us, that's something that we are just trying to make products that so many different people can enjoy.
The baking industry is actually male dominated.
It is.
And I had no idea.
I mean, you have female buyers and you have female buyers in certain companies, but you see as like the higher you go up, sometimes within these organizations, it is very male dominated. And listen, I think working with men is great, right? I mean, I do. I've learned a lot from them, but you wouldn't think that in bakery, right? You wouldn't think that bakery would be a male dominated industry, but it is still. I feel like there's a turning of the waves coming though. I do. I feel like you're seeing a lot more women starting companies, innovative companies. And I think that a lot of the innovation comes from women.
Yes.
Yes.
We can figure out how to do anything when we put our minds to it.
Totally.
And
Agreed.
oftentimes we have to just out of because of everything that we are handling, everything that's on our plates.
Right.
We have to figure out a way.
I don't think Bakery Bling would have been as successful if it wasn't innovative, right? If I just came out with the same thing everybody else was doing, I'm not sure we would have had a place, for us. I think as we've grown, for us now, it's getting more efficient in what we're doing, bringing in the right team. You can talk about all these high level decisions, all this stuff, but if you don't have the right team, none of that matters.
Yeah.
It goes back to the team, right? And you hear that and you're like, excuse me, I think for a long time, I'm like, what does that mean? What does that mean? But it's people with experience. It's people that are just willing to dive in and do what it takes to get the job done. And I feel like I have a lot of those people on my team.
And how did you build that team and your brand, which encourages this creativity and innovation?
It's a mess all the time because it's like we're constantly playing, we're constantly working. I think for me, I lead by example. I am very innovative, right? I will try different things. Listen, not all of them are going to work, right? But I'm always willing to try something, try and think through every possible thing that could go wrong. So we try and work out those issues. But I think we do have I'm very lucky to have a team of people that is very innovative.
So I'd like to focus on, the theme that's central to this podcast,
Sure.
Which is financial empowerment.
Yeah.
What financial principles have steered your decision-making process in business? And how can women out there use your advice to propel our personal and entrepreneurial success?
That's a good one. I think it's recognizing the things that you may not be great at, right? When I look at myself, I am definitely innovative. I love sales. I love the marketing side of the business. I enjoy all those things, right? Finance to me, I don't lead the finance department anymore, right? I think you have to put the right people in place. Even if you can't, let's say you might not be able to afford a full-time CFO. You may not be able to afford a full-time accountant. I think even bringing those people in part-time and saying, okay, here's my ideas. Here's what I'm trying to do. You may not be thinking of this. You may be thinking of this. This is where you're going to have extra costs. This is how you need to get to the next level. So it's a little bit more strategic as you go. I think for me, I've just gone. I haven't been very strategic. And I think now I'm like, oh, I should have been a lot more strategic. And I'm going back and making sure we are more strategic in the things we're doing. Like I said, you can't grow like 1 year we went from 11 million to 22 million. You can't do that without finance. You can't. It's too much. You know what I mean? So it's like I've had to learn some of these really hard lessons. You could have probably gone from 11 million to 14 million, but not 11 to 22. You're going to need capital to do that. You can't cash flow that. And so for me now, knowing those things, I'm a little more hesitant to just say yes to everything, right? We have to be more strategic because we also want to be a good partner. And when I look back with some of our growth, we haven't been the best partner.
And also, you drive sales, and that's a huge component of that growth and of that growth in your financial wellness, for the company.
Sure. Sales cures most things, but too much can also be, right? Because here, like one thing in food, so we are BRC certified, we're kosher, we have all these certifications, but regardless if you're a $4 million food company or a $100 million food company, most of us still have to have quality departments, QA, regulatory, so many different things, right? To making sure that, hey, Prop 65 in California, but you have to know about all that stuff, right? So it's like, you have to make sure you have the right team of people around you too, for all those necessary things that are required. So I think for me, it was always, I wanted to grow, because I needed to make sure I had the right team of people in place. Mm-hmm. And it's very difficult if you're only selling 2 million, 4 million, right? It's very difficult to have all those people because you can't afford them all.
Yeah.
It's that fight. So for me, we never co-packed. We've always manufactured everything ourselves. So we're vertically integrated throughout our whole process. Probably the hardest thing I've ever done, but I'm not sure we would still be here if we hadn't done it. Because through COVID, everything was a mess, mm-hmm. right? I mean, when you really look back at what COVID did to a lot of us, it was terrible. It was hard to get transportation. If you were bringing things in from other countries, I mean, you couldn't control when your containers were coming. I mean, instead of a container costing $4,000 or $5,000, we were paying $30,000 for them. Okay. Then if you didn't know you could get something in, then you were air shipping. I think one year we paid $700,000 in air shipments.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. So you look at that where you don't ever want to pay for an air shipment because that's just coming off your top line revenue. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's just like, I mean, we might as well put that money in the toilet and just flush it, but a lot of us had to do these certain things or sacrifices to make it through those years. Extreme measures. Yes. You're absolutely right. And so to be honest, that's most of the time I've had or been in this company has been in COVID. I don't know if things were so hard because it was COVID or just because starting a company like this is just hard. I don't think manufacturing is easy. I think people that just want to manufacture and that's probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my whole entire life. Mm. And definitely not for the faint of hearts. It's not easy.
And how have you been able to stay strong and resilient throughout all of this?
I had a baby at 19 years old, and I'll say there's nothing in my life that I can't get through.
Oh my gosh. Similarly, I had my son at 17.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like, even when I meet another woman who has been there, done that, and you just understand how difficult.
You understand and you realize that, okay, no one at 17 or 19 is ready for a child, mm-hmm. Nor should you be, because I mean, it's so difficult. And listen, all choices we made. So we definitely, we
have an S on our chest. Yes. We are super women.
Yeah. And listen, I mean, I think here's the thing. Regardless, good choices, bad choices, we all have choices in life and there are consequences for them. Me starting a manufacturing plant, there was consequences for them. Okay. Good, bad, hard, challenging, all of the above, And so I think you just have to prepare yourself for that. And my husband's the same way. He went through some things in his life that, I mean, there's nothing, listen, we're not the smartest. We always say we're not the smartest people by far. Okay. There's plenty of people smarter than us. We will outwork you regardless. But sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes that's not enough. And so I think for us, we pray a lot. we pray a lot, and we really have just tried to make the best choices we can for the business going forward, and now hiring the right people and making sure that we are making sound choices.
And how do you keep it all together? Are you doing any kind of self-care?
You don't.
When things get overwhelming.
I like to buy shoes. No, I'm just kidding. What do I do? I like to run. I do. I like working out. I love being with my kids. For right now in life, I'm okay with working and being a mom. I don't do a lot else outside of that, but I'm okay with that, right? I do enjoy working. I do think sometimes I work way too much. But that's what it takes. This next generation that doesn't want to work a 40-hour work week, that thinks that, okay, we're going to work 4 days a week. Some businesses require more than that. It takes more than that to grow a company.
Yes.
You can't just say, I'm going to work 35 hours. Listen, I want to work 20 hours a week. That's not always possible.
Yes, I worked for Chevron for 22 years.
Right.
We worked a 980. We were actually off every other Friday. Now I'm working every single day. Doesn't matter, even Mother's Day, I took a call. I mean, I am constantly on my computer. I take it everywhere with me, my laptop, like you're just always on because you never know when it might be another opportunity, especially in that early stage of growing, starting your company. Like it is just such a grind.
You know what? You're right, though. You never know when that opportunity is going to come. And you never know the people you're going to meet. You never know where the next thing can take you. Be smart, try and make good choices, but always try and network and get out there. I mean, we did a fancy food show when it was still in San Francisco, and there's the old diner up there that's like right near the Moscone Center. And this guy had a lanyard on, and I don't know why, but I felt like the need to talk to him. And these guys were actually looking for a peppermint flavored sugar. And that was one of the things that actually helped start this business.
Like, look at that, the universe.
Yes, right. But if I hadn't been curious and just asked who he was, what he was doing, that opportunity would have never happened. I'm not sure we would be in bakery if it wasn't for him, really. And so when I look at those types of things, you're like, okay, sometimes you have to sit back. Nothing's going to be perfect. I think the highs can't be too high and the lows can't be too low. And I think for me, sometimes that's hard because this is like my child. This is another child for me. And someone once explained it to me. It's like a sick child that constantly needs your care. And that can be very exhausting. Whether or not you go the investment route, whether or not you go the private equity, whatever it is you're trying to do, I would say really though, there's a lot of good people out there. Talk to them, try and make good sounded choices. Just because somebody comes to and offers you money or blah, 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 doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing. Take a step back, even if you're very small, make sure you're protected. Have an attorney. When you're starting a company, get the right documentation with attorneys and also with accountants. Because if you ever start a company wrong, right, where your accounting is off, this is off, it's really challenging to get right.
Yes.
And like I said, you might be able to hire those people monthly, part-time. It doesn't have to be full-time, but I just think trying to do things the right way from the beginning, you're laying that groundwork. Where I think sometimes we've had to go back and make sure we have concrete in all areas and not some sand over here. And as I'm hiring now, I am hiring people that are a lot more process driven than I am because that's not my strength. And it's okay to say, listen, that's not my strength. I'm not good at that, right? But I think in the beginning stages, you just do whatever you can. You make all these decisions. They may not be the best decisions. And then you're like, oh my gosh, this isn't a good decision. Now I'm paying for the decision I made, right? And so I think if you can just try and make the best decisions you can, it'll help for the foundation for the company in the long run.
Yes. Well, I always love to ask my guests, what are you dreaming bigger about next?
So we have new designer decorated cookies coming out. We're launching a new brand called Butter Baking Company, which is cute. And that's more economy driven. And then we are also launching party wear. So plates and napkins. So when you walk into an in-store bakery, the way I see it, the way I would merchandise this, where you do different themes throughout the year, whether, St. Patrick's Day, you have rainbows and shamrocks, and you can have balloons and plates and cupcakes and cookies and cakes that kind of all go together and tell your story. And so in-store bakery has been good to me. And I just, that's important to me to help them stand out and be different so they don't lose as much business.
And congratulations again on the 50 fastest growing women-led companies. That's incredible.
No, it is. It's fun. It's honestly great to see more women in business and, all working together. I'm part of a platinum group, and the group that I have, it's amazing. I had a thing yesterday, and you can just bounce ideas, and so many people, that's the thing too, so many people have been through challenges you've had before. So if you can network with a group of people that you feel comfortable with, because sometimes you don't want to air your dirty laundry. For me, like, I'm an open book. I always want to help any way I can, because if you cannot make the mistake I made, then great. And so to me, I'm always, even if you're in my industry, not in my industry, I think it's really important to know how to navigate.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for
this
having
was
me.
so much fun. And I cannot wait to order these special bling cookies and gingerbread to share that with my daughter, Sophia.
Well, thank you so much for having me.